Happy Teachers Day to everyone, and welcome to the virtual orientation on the Learning Delivery Modalities course for teachers, or LDM 2. In this activity, you will be guided by this terminal objective. At the end of the activity, you will be able to describe what this course is about and how it will help you manage the teaching learning process in the modalities. On this screen, on the slide, you will see the flow of the orientation. We shall start this with the preliminary program, the session 1, which is the course overview. Session 2 on technical assistance and coaching in LDM 2. Session 3 is about the walkthrough of the LDM 2 for modules for teachers and the evaluation. Here's now the session 1, and this is all about the course overview. Still, we will be guided by this objective. You will be listening to the discussion on the LDM framework, the course content of the LDM 2, the delivery design, and the type of learning modalities utilized. Some of our coaches, LAC leaders, LAC managers are oriented already with these LCP courses. You will notice that this is a generic course, meaning courses 1, 2, and 3 are generic and labeled the same for school heads and teachers. However, they differ in the content of modules because we will be considering the context of uh, the school heads being the LAC leaders or LAC coaches, LAC documenter, and also in the context also of the teachers. So here, the course 1 is about learning delivery modalities. Course 2 is learners' welfare and well-being. Course 3 is the provision of psychosocial support and training on wellness. Let's revisit the LCP courses for school and division leaders. LDM 1 is labeled as Management of LDM Implementation, which is composed of 7 modules. While course 2, Learners' Welfare and Well-being, this is composed of 4 modules. And course 3 on the provision of psychosocial support and training on wellness, which is this comprises the 8 modules. Now, let's have the LCP courses for teachers, or the LDM2. Teaching in the modalities, what to teach and how to learn. So here, this LDM2 on teaching in the modalities, this is composed of 4 modules with course orientation, the most essential learning competencies or MELC, the lesson design and assessment in the modalities, and the PA and coaching in the learning LDMs. We have planning and continuing PDs and LDM, the pedagogies, assessment, and the learning action self-planning. While course 2 on learners' welfare and well-being for school leaders, we notice that this course is composed of 4 modules, while in teachers, we have 3 modules to be considered in course 2, especially on learners' welfare and well-being. Module 1 pertains to child protection, Module 2 on psychosocial support needs of learners at home, and Module 3 engaging partners, home, and community partners. While Course 3, the provision of psychosocial support and training on wellness. For school leaders, Course 3 has 8 modules, but for teachers, we have 7. Module 1 pertains to self-care and dimensions of wellness. Module 2, physical wellness. Module 3, spiritual wellness. Module 4, emotional wellness. Module 5, intellectual and financial wellness. Module 6, environmental. And Module 7, social and vocational wellness. So, friends, those are the LCP courses for teachers, which are composed of the three courses. Okay, so let's delve more on the course 2, learners' welfare and well-being. As I mentioned earlier, in this course, we will be considering three modules: the child protection, the psychosocial support needs of learners at home, and engaging partners, or especially our parents, the home, and especially the integral role of our external community partners. But for course 3, we have the provision of psychosocial support and training on wellness. We have mentioned this already in the previous slide on the 7 modules included in the course 3. For course 1, so that we can proceed on the learning delivery modalities. Here, our specific objectives are the following. Know the different LDMs and platforms, especially their features, uses, and pedagogies. Then plan for the implementation of the school-adapted LDMs. Prepare learning materials and resources needed for the LDM, and be confident in executing lessons in the new LDM. So in the slide, you will see the framework for teachers and school leaders. This is designed in terms of, I know you are familiar with the IPO format. The input will be considering the professional development priorities as stated in DepEd Memo number 50 series of 2020. Plus, of course, we'll be considering the context of the new normal and the COVID-19 response as stated in the learning continuity plan. As part of our processes in order to carry out our inputs, we have the designing and implementing principles and guidelines and internal and external learning service providers with consideration on LCP courses and programs designed for the supervisors, the school heads, and this time with the LDM2, our main man in this activity are our teachers. Also, on this process or processes, we'll be considering also the regular professional development programs and courses. So with these inputs and processes, our expected outputs are the following: improve readiness for remote multimodal learning delivery, informed decision making in choosing appropriate learning delivery modality, and improve pedagogical content, knowledge, and assessment. So with this IPO framework, this will respond to the quality instruction delivery in the context of the new normal. Education must continue, so therefore, still the output is the sulong edukalidad. Here we can see the LDM delivery design, building expertise on the ground. So with the the SLM, the self-learning module, that can be conducted through or can be carried out, conducted through an independent study, and even peer learning through uh, learning action cell and even coaching. So this can be done through the blend of synchronous and asynchronous learning. So when I say we will be in terms of synchronous peer learning, we will be considering the video conferencing like the one that we have adopted in module 1, and also yung ginagamit natin ngayon, the lock and coaching through the virtual mode. And on the asynchronous learning, guided independent study through SLM via online platform like Facebook, Google Meet, and MS Teams. On the screen, you will see the LDM design, building expertise on the ground. From the learner participant, the LAC leader, the assigned coaches, through the RO and CO. NAYAP at the RO is lodged at the Human Resource Training and Development section, while at the CO, this is a separate, this is a part of the structure of the CO, the NAYAP Central. So how can we attain a certification um, based on the processes involved? So in the framework, in the design, you will see that the learner participant will have to undergo these 4 modules through independent study plus that peer learning through LAC or coaching. Then, uh, as an output, this will be submitted to the LAC leader, the assigned LAC leader, and the LAC leader, and the most important term of reference for our LAC leader. Um, they he or she is in charge of the collection of output. Then, out of the collected outputs by the LAC leader, this will be submitted to the assigned coach for evaluation and recommendation for certification. And then the assigned coach um, will submit recommendation through NEA, through RO, for the counterpart in the RO coaches for the certification, a certificate of participation, the issuance of certificates, and updating of participants' professional development, and then record the PDs, offline PD, and the credit banking. So with that structure, with the steps, you will be guided now on how you will be given a certificate in attendance to our LDM2. In terms of output evaluation, we will be having a course engagement, independent study, and peer learning, uh, module output, submission to the LAC leader. If we can still recall the previous slide on the role of our LAC leader, who will be collecting and organizing the outputs of our LAC participant. Then module output for submission to the division coach. The division coach will evaluate this output and then will provide recommendation. And then this recommendation will be forwarded to the regional office through NEA and through the counterpart coach at the regional office for the issuance of the certificate. On the screen, you will see the indicative timeline and the time allotment. But this week and the following week will be a crucial weeks for our teachers. So please expect for an issuance from the division, RO or CO, for the definite schedule on how are we going to give the specific indicative timeline for this LDM2. So here, this will be the content of the course modules for teachers. What you can see in the slide are, apart from the one that are being mentioned in the first part of our virtual orientation. Here you can see the allotment the time allotment per module, per part. So in part 1, on LDM selection and implementation planning in module 1, which is in course orientation, this is expected to be done in 4 hours, while module 2 on MELC, this is expected to be conducted in 3 hours, while module 3A, designing instruction in the different learning delivery modalities, um, with a schedule or time allotment of 18 to 24 hours. While for Module 3B, learning resources for 4 hours. Module 4, planning for continuing professional development and LAC planning for 2 hours. So for part 1, on LDM selection and implementation planning, this has a total of time allotment of 31 to 37 hours. For part 2, which is expected to be carried out for September to December, a practicum on LDM implementation and building portfolio. Module 5 has an allotment of 4 hours. For LDM implementation mechanism, especially on training for course management, for LDM2 coaches, and then for LDM course 2. Okay. Our concern here is on the part of the SDO, the coaching management, which is large at the division, RO and CO with strong CI presence in providing TA. Then for LDM learning and application. For training on coaches for LDM2, with our manager here, Ma'am Badet, conducted already an orientation for our coaches and for the teaching and the modalities. We'll be tapping also teachers, or master teachers, or Slack leaders, or teachers across career stages based on our RPMS PPST. Okay. In terms of the course management, the implementation procedure, our concern here is on at the division. We are done with the orientation on the management team. Then right now we are doing the online orientation, and then the following weeks and months we'll be implementing the course following the delivery design, and then monitor and evaluate through operationalization of MN mechanism with NEAP RO, NEAP CO through Quality Assurance Division and providing TA, and update LDM implementation status trackers regularly, and submit MN report, and then report progress. Here's the suggested program management team and the role per delivery. The role of the overall team lead in the division level, this is large at SDS or SDS through the SGOD, and the focal person for this our activity is our SEPs for the Human Resource and Development section, Mambadet Bedis. The overall co-team lead this activity, in terms of content, in terms of the delivery, this is more on curriculum. So therefore, the overall co-team lead is assigned to CID with the chief and the different education program supervisors, and with the PSDSS, and those school heads being assigned to do the function of the being a coach. Facilitators team, the technology and platform team, which is we will be interfacing with the ICT unit of the Office of the Schools Division Superintendent and others. We are waiting for a more comprehensive M&A mechanism and how to document, to monitor and evaluate the progress of our LDMs. Here's the procedure for management of coaching or TA mechanism for LDM. So this is one part of FTAD, meaning these functions are lodged at the regional coaches. The regional coaches or our division coaches, division um, LAC leaders will be coordinating with our coaches at the regional level. And here are the terms of references. Constitute the coaching team in the region composed of our supervisors, specialists, education forum partners. Assign coaches to the division. If necessary, orient the coaching team, monitor coaching activities, address issues related to coaching activities, and report coaching activities. Um, on the part of our teachers through SDOD with ROFTAD in providing TA, the very important roles that are expected to be done by our SDOD focal person constitute the coaching team in the division composed of division and district supervisors. We are through with that. So this is done through a separate orientation with our superintendent, chiefs of OSD, SGOD and CID supervisors, both content and instructional supervision supervisors are present during the orientation on how to organize or to compose the team for our the team that will be in charge of the coaching. Assign coaches for LACs, if necessary, orient the coaching team, and we're done with that. Monitoring coaching activities. So once this activity will be implemented, these coaches will be busy in monitoring these activities. Address issues related to coaching activities, report coaching activities. These these terms of reference are highlighted because in our DepEd Order 35, these terms of references are not indicated, but since because we are now on implementing the professional development activities in the new normal, we need more people to quality assure PD activities.
So let us now proceed to session 3, which is all about walkthrough of the LDM2 modules for teachers. The session objective is to give you a thorough discussion on the module objective, content, duration, activities, and expected outputs. Session 3.1 is all about course orientation. The objective is to describe what this course is about and how it will help you manage the teaching learning process in the modalities. Content. Lesson 1 is all about course overview. Lesson 2, organizing your learning action cell or the LAC. The duration of the session is 4 hours. Lesson 1, the course overview. This is composed of 3 activities. Activity 1 is reflecting on the course overview. Activity 2, describing your context. Activity 3, discussing answers to activities 1 and 2. Lesson 2, organizing your lab. It is composed of 3 activities. Activity 1 is reading Depth Order number 35, series 2016, and reflecting on it. Activity 2, conducting your first LAC session. Activity 3, taking note of your LAC group. Expected output, none. Session 3.2 is all about the most essential learning competencies, or the MILK. Objectives: to explain the background and development of the MILKs. Number 2, unpack the MILKs. Number 3, combine related competencies into learning objectives. The content. Lesson 1 is about background, rationale, and development of MILKs. Lesson 2, unpacking and combining MILKs into learning objectives. The duration of the session will be 3 hours. Lesson 1, background, rationale, and development of MILKs, in which this lesson 1 is composed of 4 activities. Activity 1 is reflecting on your learning continuity and congested curriculum. Activity 2, familiarizing on the design and development of MILKs. Activity 3, comparing the K-12 competencies and the MILK. Activity 4, discussing answers to activity 1 to 3 plus the lab. Lesson 2, unpacking and combining MILKs into learning objectives. It is composed of 3 activities. Activity 1, identifying considerations in unpacking and combining the MILKs. Activity 2, unpacking and combining learning objectives of the lab. Activity 3, submitting activity 2 outputs to lab leader. Expected output is individual or lab group presentation on unpacking of a sample milk.
Good day, everyone. For session 3.3a, this is about designing instruction in different learning delivery modalities. The objectives for this module are: first, differentiate between the LDMs prescribed in the LCP and among the different types of distance learning modalities. Second is to apply the lesson design and assessments considerations for distance learning in the light of the COVID-19 crisis. Create a weekly home learning plans to guide your learners as they do independent study at home. And fourth is to create an individual learning monitoring plan to keep track of the progress of learners who lag behind in completing the prescribed learning task. Start. Take two. Good day, everyone. For session 3.3a, this is about designing instruction in the different learning delivery modalities. The objectives are: first is to differentiate between the LDMs prescribed in the LCP and among the different types of distance learning modalities. Second is to apply the lesson designs and assessment considerations for distance learning in the light of the COVID-19 crisis. Third is to create weekly home learning plans to guide your learners as they do independent study at home. And fourth is to create an individual learning monitoring plan to keep track of the progress of learners who lag behind in completing the prescribed learning task. So these are the content of Module 3A. So we have 3 lessons. Lesson 1 is understanding the different learning delivery modalities. Lesson 2 is designing lessons and assessment in different learning delivery modalities, and lesson 3 is guiding and monitoring learners in the different learning delivery modalities. The time required to finish this module is 18 to 24 hours. Now for lesson 1, which is the understanding the different LDMs, here are the activities. The first activity is defining the modalities prescribed in the LCP. Activity number 2 is deep diving into distance learning plus LAC. Activity number 3 is ranking the types of distance learning plus LAC. And activity number 4 is identifying targeted interventions for learners with special concerns and LAC. Now for lesson number 2, which is designing lessons and assessment in the different LDMs, the first activity is to identify vital components of a well-designed lesson. Second is sequencing learning tasks. Activity number 3 is reflecting on how to improve one's lesson. Activity number 4 is using and supplementing SLMs plus luck. Activity number 5 is identifying the similarities and differences between formative and summative assessments. Activity number 6 is adapting assessment methods in distance learning plus LAC. And activity number 7 is building a learner's portfolio. Now for lesson 3, this is guiding and monitoring learners in different LDMs. The first activity is about understanding the weekly home learning plan, followed by creating a weekly home learning plan plus LAC. Activity number 3 is differentiating the weekly home learning plan from the individual learning monitoring plan. And activity number 4 is creating an individual learning monitoring plan plus LAC. So what are the expected outputs for Module 3A? We will be preparing list of targeted learners interventions, the learning task for DL, assessment methods in DL, weekly home learning plan for one subject, the individual learning monitoring plan for a student who lags behind in completing the task or the learning tasks, LAC3 teacher engagement report, and LAC3 session report. Now for session 3B, which is the all about learning resources. So here are the objectives. The first objective is to associate learning resources with specific learning modalities. Next is to access resources from the online portals such as DepEd Commons and LR portal of the Department of Education. Third is to explain the importance of using quality assured learning resources. So what are the content of Module 3B? First is Lesson 1, Learning Resource Maps for Distance Learning. Lesson 2 is Accessing Learning Resources from DepEd portals. Lesson 3 is Assessing the LR materials. So you are required to finish this in 4 hours. So for lesson 1, which is the learning resource map for distance learning, here are the activities. So for activity number 1, it's answering question about the learning resource map. Activity number 2 is discussing answers to activity number 1 plus, of course, the LAC. For lesson 2, this is accessing learning resources from the DepEd portals. Activity number 1 is accessing and exploring LR portal and DepEd Commons. So in this activity, make sure that you have registered already in the LR portal using your DepEd email account. Activity number 2 is discussing answers to activity number 1 plus LAC. And for lesson 3, we have assessing the LR materials. Activity number 1 is using the LR rapid assessment tool to assess a DepEd material. For activity number 2, this is about assessing learning resource materials from non-DepEd learning resource portals or platforms. For activity number 3, this is assessing one's own learning resource. Activity number 4 is discussing answers to activities 1, 2, and 3 plus LAC. So what are the expected outputs for Module 3B? You need to accomplish two rapid assessment tools with reflection. So that's it for Module 3A and 3B.
Let's continue with the session 3.4, which covers the module 4. The module 4 is all about planning for continuing professional development and LAC planning. The objectives are the following. 1. Carry out your plan for your continuing professional development. Number 2. Discuss the different professional development initiatives, programs related to LDMs that are available to you, either provided by DepEd or by non-DepEd learning service providers or the LSPs. Number 3. Develop a professional development plan, including the Learning Action Plan. Number 4, commit to your professional growth and development. The content of the Module 4 are the following. Lesson 1, reflecting on professional life and development. Lesson 2, planning for the continuing professional development and participation in the lab. The lab duration will last for 2 hours. So let's proceed to the lesson 1, reflecting on professional life and development. It is composed of 3 activities. Activity 1 is filling out the professional self-assessment questionnaire. Activity 2, identifying PPSE indicators to focus on. Activity 3, setting LDM-related professional development goals. Lesson 2, it's all about planning for the continuing professional development and participation in the lab. The activity 1 is all about accomplishing the individual professional development plan template. Activity 2, discussing answers to lesson 1, activity 3, and lesson 2, activities 1 and 2, and the lab. Expected output, finalized LDM individual development plan. So we'll now proceed to the 5-minute health break. So after the 5-minute health break, we'll continue with the session 3.5. So the session 3.5 is all about the module 5, which is building the teaching portfolio related to the implementation of the modalities. The objectives: list down the evidence of LDM implementation. Second objective, plan for how to make sure that you will be able to relate these evidences to your professional practice based on the professional standards. The content of Module 5 are the following. Lesson 1, the teaching portfolio and its contents. Lesson 2, the evaluation rubric. The last session will last for 4 hours. So the lesson 1, the teaching portfolio and its contents, has 5 activities. Activity 1, checking completion of modules 1 to 4 completion. Activity 2, reflecting on building my portfolio. Activity 3, reflecting on varied evidences to complete my portfolio. Activity 4, discussing answers from activities 2 and 3 of the lab. Activity 5, submitting the finalized list of suggested evidence form to assigned lab leader. So the lesson 2 of module 5 is all about the evaluation rubric. Activity 1 is all about understanding the LDM2 teacher's evaluation rubric. Activity 2 is all about discussing the rubric and presenting the next step of the lab. Expected output is the portfolio. So, in summary, here are now the expected outputs from Module 1 to 5. For Module 1, which is the course orientation, there are no outputs to be submitted. Module 2, the required outputs is the presentation of lab group on unpacking of a sample milk. Module 3A, there are so many required outputs. Number 1, list of target evidence for one subject. Number 5, individual learning monitoring plan for a student who lags behind in completing the learning tasks. Number 6, LAC 3, teacher engagement report. Number 7, LAC 3, session report. For Module 3B, the required outputs are the two accomplished LR rapid assessment tools with reflection. For Module 4, the required outputs are the finalized LDM individual development plan, which is produced after discussion during the lab. For Module 5, the required output is your portfolio. So, what's next after this orientation? So, uh, the session objective are the following. In this session, you will summarize what you have learned from the orientation session. Number 2, evaluate the conduct of the orientation. And lastly, be committed to finish the course. So, in order to have a copy of the modules for teachers, kindly download the resources by using the link flash on the screen. Okay, thank you.